Don't bring the baby. It ruins the mood, my mom texted. My dad added, just come alone or don't come. I stayed home. And so did the $7,200 mortgage transfer I'd been sending them. By 10:47 a.m. my phone was ringing nonstop. My parents told me not to bring my daughter to Easter brunch. Said she ruins the mood. My daughter is 14 months old. She ruins the mood by existing. Let that satisfying little detail sink in for a second because honestly when I read that text from my mother I laughed. I actually laughed out loud standing in my kitchen at 6 in the morning still holding a bottle of warm formula. And then I stopped laughing because it hit me, they meant it. They genuinely, fully, completely meant it. My name is Shelby, I'm 31 and for the past 2 years, I have been quietly paying my parents' mortgage. $7,200. Every single month. Exposed wire transferred from my account to theirs like clockwork. And on that particular Sunday morning, I decided the wire wasn't going through. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. I grew up in Cary, North Carolina, in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn is cut at the same angle and every family looks like a stock photo from the outside. My mom, Diane, taught piano lessons out of our living room. My dad, Gerald, sold commercial insurance and talked about it like he was saving the world. I have one brother, Tyler, who's 4 years younger than me. And growing up, Tyler was, well, let me put it this way. You know how some families have the kid who can do no wrong? The one who gets the last slice of pie and nobody questions it? That was Tyler. Golden boy. Star pitcher on his high school team. Got into NC State on a partial scholarship. My parents practically built a shrine in the hallway. Me. I was fine. I was good in school. Stayed out of trouble. Worked at a frozen yogurt shop from age 15. But I wasn't Tyler. My mom would literally introduce us to people like this. This is Tyler, our athlete, and this is Shelby, our dependable one. Dependable. Like I was a Honda Civic. Not flashy, but hey, she starts every morning. Do you think I'm exaggerating? I wish I was. Here's the thing though, I didn't resent Tyler for it. That's important. Tyler never asked to be the favorite. He actually hated it sometimes. When he was 17, he once told my mom to stop comparing us, and she grounded him for a week for being disrespectful. So Tyler learned to keep quiet and I learned to keep performing. We both just survived that house in our own ways. Fast forward. I graduated from UNC Charlotte with a degree in accounting. Got a solid job at a mid-size firm in Raleigh. Bought my own condo at 27. And at 28 I met Dominic at a friend's wedding. Tall, kind, works in IT project management, and the first man who ever looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the room. We got married when I was 29 and our daughter, Nora, came along about a year and a half later. Now here's where my parents' story gets interesting. Around the same time Dominic and I got married, my dad's insurance agency hit a rough patch. Lost 2 major clients. Then my mom had a knee surgery that insurance only partially covered. They were hemorrhaging money. Their mortgage, which they'd refinanced twice already, was drowning them. My dad called me one evening and I'll never forget his voice. He sounded small. Gerald never sounds small. He asked if I could help, temporarily, with the mortgage while they got back on their feet. And what did dependable Shelby do? Exactly what dependable Shelby always does. I said yes. $7,200 a month. That's not a typo. They live in a 4-bedroom house that they absolutely did not need to refinance into a jumbo loan for, but Gerald wanted the renovation. New kitchen. New deck. The works. And now their monthly payment was astronomical and somehow it became my problem. Dominic was supportive but cautious. He said, Shelby, this should have an end date. I agreed. I told my parents 6 months. 6 months of help and then they needed a plan. My mom said, of course, sweetie. We'd never take advantage. Guess how many months it had been by the time that Easter text arrived? 23. 23 months. Almost 2 full years. And not once, not a single time, did either of them say thank you. Not a card. Not a we appreciate you. Nothing. It became expected. Like gravity. Like the sun rising. Shelby pays the mortgage. That's just what happens. And during those 23 months, you want to know what else happened? My mom threw herself a 60th birthday party at a rented venue. My dad bought a new fishing boat. A boat. They posted photos on Facebook of weekend trips to the Outer Banks. Meanwhile, I was putting off replacing my car's brake pads because money was tight after the transfer. Dominic started getting frustrated. Not at me exactly, but at the situation. He'd say things like, we have a baby now, Shelby. We have our own family to think about. And he was right. Nora's daycare alone was $1,500 a month. We were comfortable, but we were not wealthy. That $7,200 monthly drain was real. But I kept paying. Because I was dependable. Because Diane and Gerald needed me. because some broken part of my brain still thought that maybe, if I just did enough, they'd finally see me the way they saw Tyler. And then came the Saturday night before Easter. I was bathing Nora. She was splashing around, giggling, grabbing at the rubber duck, just being the happiest little person alive. My phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. It was a text from my mom in the family group chat. It said, "Easter brunch is at 11. Dress nice. And Shelby, don't bring the baby. She was fussy last time and it really ruined the vibe for everyone." I stared at it. I read it 3 times. My 14-month-old daughter. Ruined the vibe. At a family gathering. Because she was fussy. Because she's a baby and that's what babies sometimes do. Before I could even process it, my dad followed up. "Your mother's right. Just come alone or don't come. We want a peaceful brunch. Come alone or don't come." I want you to sit with that for a second. My parents, the people whose mortgage I had been silently funding for almost 2 years, told me that my child was not welcome at their table. That my presence was only acceptable if I showed up incomplete. Without the most important part of my life. I didn't respond. Not that night. I put Nora to bed. I sat on the couch next to Dominic, showed him the texts and watched his jaw tighten. He didn't yell. Dominic doesn't yell. He just looked at me and said, "So what are you going to do?" And that's the question, isn't it? What was I going to do? Because dependable Shelby would have apologized. Dependable Shelby would have called her mom, smoothed it over, maybe even arranged a sitter. Dependable Shelby would have shown up at that brunch, smiled through the pain and then gone home and cried in the shower. But something shifted that night. Something cracked inside me, not in a breaking way but in a letting the light in way. I looked at Dominic and said 5 words I'd never said before in my life. "I'm done being dependable." He actually smiled. First real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. That night I opened my banking app. I looked at the scheduled transfer, $7,200, set to go out Monday morning. And I canceled it. Just like that. One tap. Done. 23 months of automatic generosity, ended with my thumb. I also didn't text back about Easter. Didn't call. Didn't explain. I went to bed, slept better than I had in months and woke up Easter Sunday to the smell of Dominic making French toast and Nora babbling in her high chair. We had our own Easter. Just the 3 of us. Nora wore a little yellow dress. Dominic hid plastic eggs in the backyard. It was perfect. It was peaceful. And not a single vibe was ruined. But here's the thing about poking a sleeping bear and then taking away the bear's honey. At exactly 10:47 that morning my phone started ringing. And it did not stop. My mom called 4 times. My dad called twice. Then my mom again. Then a text from my dad, "Shelby, where are you? Brunch started 20 minutes ago." Then another from my mom, "Are you seriously not coming? Call me back now." Then my dad again, "This is childish, Shelby. Your mother is upset." I let every single call go to voicemail. I sat on my patio with coffee and watched my daughter try to eat a plastic egg, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. But the phone kept ringing. And by noon the tone of the messages changed. Because it was the 1st of the month. And you know what happens on the 1st of the month? Gerald checks the bank account. And this time the deposit from good old dependable Shelby wasn't there. My mom's next text was very different. "Shelby, call me. It's urgent." Oh, now it's urgent. Now I'm important. Now the Honda Civic matters. Funny how that works, right? So what did I do? Honestly, what would you have done? Because the old me would have crumbled. The old me would have already been dialing back, explaining, apologizing, transferring. But the new me, the one who woke up that Easter morning and chose herself and her daughter for the first time, the new me poured another cup of coffee and turned off her phone. And that, my friends, is when things really started to get interesting. Because my parents weren't used to silence from me. They didn't know what to do with a Shelby who didn't answer. And the things they did next, honestly I still can't believe some of it. But I'll get to that. I promise you what happened in the next few days changed everything. And I mean everything. So where was I? Right. Phone off. Coffee in hand. Plastic eggs on the lawn. That piece lasted about 4 hours. Around 3 in the afternoon a car pulled into our driveway. I knew before I even looked. Dominic said, "You want me to handle it?" I said, "No. But stay close." I opened the front door and there was my mother. Full Easter outfit. Lavender blouse, pearl earrings, arms crossed, lips pressed into that thin line she does when she's about to make everything your fault. My dad was still in the car, engine running like the getaway driver for an emotional robbery. "You didn't come," she said. Not a question. A verdict. "You told me not to bring my daughter. So I stayed with my daughter." And here's where Diane does what Diane does best. She rearranged reality. Tilted her head and said, "Shelby, that is not what I said. I said she was fussy last time. I was trying to help you. You didn't have to take it so personally. Can we pause? My parents told me my baby ruins the mood and I wasn't supposed to take that personally. What was I supposed to take it as? A weather report? A horoscope? I didn't argue. I've learned that arguing with my mother is just fuel. She doesn't want resolution. She wants the match. So I said, okay mom. Was there something else? Her face changed. The lavender blouse confidence cracked. She shifted her weight and said, the mortgage payment, Shelby. It didn't go through. There was. The real reason she drove 40 minutes on Easter Sunday in her pearls. Not because she missed me. Because the check didn't clear. I know, I said. I cancelled it. Silence. The loudest silence I've ever heard. She stared at me like I told her I was moving to Mars. Then she turned toward the car. Gerald. Get out here. My dad climbed out slowly, hands in his pockets, classic Gerald, and said, Shelby, let's not blow this out of proportion. I'm not Dad. I've been paying your mortgage for almost 2 years. You told me not to bring my child to your house. So I'm reevaluating my priorities. My mom jumped in. This has nothing to do with the mortgage. You're punishing us because we asked for one peaceful brunch. You have a fishing boat, Mom. That stopped her. Dad bought a boat 7 months ago. You went to the Outer Banks 3 times last summer. You threw a birthday party at a venue that rents for $4,000. And you can't pay your own mortgage. Nobody spoke for about 5 seconds. Then my dad said something I'll carry with me forever. He said, we're your parents, Shelby. Helping us should be a privilege, not a transaction. A privilege. Paying $7,200 a month to people who won't let my baby sit at their table is a privilege. Can you imagine hearing that from your own father? Dominic appeared behind me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, I think it's time for you both to go. My mom looked at Dominic like he'd insulted her. She's never liked him, thinks he turned me against them. Which is hilarious because Dominic spent 2 years telling me to keep the peace. But in Diane's world, any boundary I set must be someone else's influence. Because dependable Shelby would never say no on her own. They left. No hug. Didn't say goodbye to Nora. Just got in the car and drove away. And I stood on my porch and felt terrible, guilty, complicated relief. That night the group chat exploded. My mom sent an essay about how ungrateful I was. How she and Dad sacrificed everything. How I was being manipulated by my husband into abandoning my family. She said I was choosing a man over my own blood. She didn't mention Nora once. Her granddaughter didn't even factor in. I didn't respond. But you know who did? Tyler. Golden child Tyler. The last person my parents expected to hear from. My 27-year-old brother who lives in Charlotte, works in physical therapy, and had mostly stayed out of family drama his whole life. At 11:16 that night he texted the group chat something close to this. Mom, Dad. Shelby's been paying your mortgage for almost 2 years. She didn't ask for credit. She didn't complain. He just did it. And you told her that her baby ruins the mood. Now you're calling her ungrateful? I love you both but you're wrong. And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. I read that in bed in the dark and I cried. Not sad tears. The kind you cry when someone finally sees you. My parents didn't respond. Radio silence. Which meant they were furious. The golden child broke ranks. The one person whose opinion they valued just sided with the Honda Civic. The next few days were messy. Mom called Tyler directly, cried, guilt-tripped, told him he was tearing the family apart. Tyler said, Mom, you told Shelby not to bring her daughter. How did you think that was going to go? She hung up on him. My dad tried a different approach. Classic Gerald, the insurance strategist. He called me calm as anything. Shelby, let's find a compromise. What kind of compromise? You resume the payments and we'll adjust our expectations about holidays. Adjust their expectations. I keep paying and they'll graciously tolerate my daughter at family events. Incredible deal, right? Dad, the payments are done. You need to figure out your finances. He got quiet. Then, you're going to regret this, Shelby. Maybe. But the only thing I regret right now is not doing it sooner. He hung up. And something about that felt final. Like a door closing that I'd been propping open with my whole body for years. But after about a week of total silence, Tyler called me. Shelby, I talked to Dad again. How'd that go? Different. He was quiet. Not angry quiet. Thinking quiet. And then Tyler told me Gerald asked him something he'd never asked before. Do you think your sister hates us? Tyler told him the truth. She doesn't hate you. She's exhausted. There's a difference. Now things didn't magically turn around in a week. My mom was still icing me out. She told my Aunt Patrice that I was going through something, her way of controlling the story without admitting fault. But something was shifting under the surface. And I know that because of what my dad did next. Something so unlike Gerald that when Tyler told me I made him repeat it twice. But I'll save that for a moment. Because what happened next didn't just surprise me. Changed everything. And I need you to understand I didn't plan any of this. I was just a tired mom who finally said enough. Sometimes that's all it takes to shake the whole foundation. So remember when I said my dad did something completely unlike himself? Here's what happened. About 2 weeks after Easter, Tyler called me. I was giving Nora a bath. Seems like all the big moments in this story happened during bath time, and he said, "Shelby, sit down." I'm kneeling next to a bathtub. I'm already down. Dad sold the boat. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. Gerald loved that boat. That boat was his entire personality. He talked about it the way some men talk about their firstborn. And he sold it. Listed it Tuesday, gone by Thursday. When Tyler asked why, Gerald said, "Because my daughter shouldn't be paying for a boat she's never been on." I want to be honest. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Because that sentence told me Gerald knew. He knew the whole time it wasn't right. He just needed consequences to make him face it. But knowing and changing are two very different things. And my mom was nowhere near either one. 3 weeks after Easter, Diane still hadn't texted me once. My Aunt Patrice called to check in, which meant she'd been sent on a reconnaissance mission. She said, "Your mother is very hurt, Shelby." "Patrice, I love you, but she told me my baby ruins the mood. I'm allowed to be hurt too." Patrice paused. "Yeah, that was a bad one. Even for Diane. Even for Diane. That tells you everything about my mother's track record." Meanwhile, my dad was quietly doing something I never expected. Tyler said Gerald started calling him more and little things slipped out. He and Diane were looking at their finances seriously. Talking to the bank about refinancing. He'd picked up new clients at work. Gerald was fixing it. Stubbornly, silently, in his own Gerald way. About 5 weeks after Easter, I got a text from my dad. Just a text. It said, "Shelby, I'm not good at this. But I want you to know I'm sorry about what I said about helping us being a privilege. That was wrong. You've done more for us than we deserved." I read it 6 times. Showed it to Dominic. He said, "That's real. For a man who once refused to apologize for backing over my bicycle because you shouldn't have left it in the driveway?" This was seismic. I texted back, "Thank you, Dad. That means a lot." Short, simple. Neither of us was ready for more. But it was a crack in the wall. No. Diane. The real challenge. She wasn't just not apologizing, she was doubling down. Posting quotes on Facebook about toxic family members, and knowing when someone has changed for the worse. She posted a photo of an empty chair at her kitchen table with the caption, "Some people choose to be absent." Dominic saw that one and laughed. "Your mom invented passive-aggressive social media." Funny. And also really not. But Diane didn't count on Tyler. In week 6, he drove up from Charlotte unannounced, sat at my parents' kitchen table and said, "Mom, I need you to hear me. Not as your golden child. Just as someone who loves this family and can see what's happening to it." She started with, "Tyler, your sister is the one who—" "Stop. I see a sister who paid your bills for 2 years without being thanked. A granddaughter growing up without her grandmother. And a mom too proud to admit she said something hurtful." She cried. For a long time. And then she said something that broke my heart. "I don't know how to go back, Tyler. I've said too much." And Tyler, my little brother who I used to make peanut butter sandwiches for, who I taught to ride a bike, said, "You don't go back, Mom. You go forward. Call Shelby. Say you're sorry. Ask to see your granddaughter." That's it. She didn't call that day. Or the next. But on a Tuesday morning 7 weeks after Easter, my phone rang. Diane. I almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered for 10 seconds. Nora was napping. Dominic was at work. Just me and whatever was about to happen. I picked up. "Shelby. I need to say something and I need you to let me finish." "Okay." What I said about Nora was terrible. I've known it since the moment I sent it, but I was too proud to take it back. Your father and I got comfortable. We took your help for granted. We took you for granted. And when you stood up for yourself, I made it about me instead of looking at what we did. I'm sorry about the text. I'm sorry about the group chat. And I'm sorry it took me this long. I was sitting on my kitchen floor. I'd slid down the cabinet during her speech, crying quietly. "Mom, you know what hurt the most? Not the money. Not Easter. It's that you never once said you were proud of me. Tyler got trophies and praise. I got dependable. I spent my whole life trying to earn what he got for free." Long silence. Then, "I don't have an excuse for that. But I am proud of you, Shelby. I should have said it every day." We didn't fix everything in that phone call. But we talked for almost an hour. She asked about Nora, what words she was saying, what foods she liked, whether she still loved that rubber duck. 2 weeks later, my parents came to our house for dinner. My territory, not theirs. Dominic grilled chicken. Nora wore her yellow dress because it was the only clean one. I'm not going to pretend I'm on top of laundry. My mom walked in and went straight to Nora. Picked her up, held her and said, "Hi, sweet girl. Grandma missed you." Gerald looked around my kitchen and said, "You have a nice home, Shelby." Which for Gerald is basically a Shakespearean declaration of love. Was it awkward? Yes. Mom complimented the chicken 4 separate times. Dad asked Dominic about IT and clearly understood nothing but nodded like his life depended on it. But Nora sat on my mother's lap the whole evening. And nobody said a word about the mood being ruined. I never resumed the mortgage payments. My parents refinanced into something manageable, downsized a year later to a smaller place near Tyler in Charlotte. Mom started teaching piano again. Dad picked up more clients. They figured it out like adults, which is all I ever wanted. Tyler and I are closer than we've ever been. He drives up monthly, takes Nora to the park while Dominic and I get a date afternoon. Uncle of the year, and he knows it. He never went back to being the quiet golden child who stayed out of things. He found his voice in that group chat on Easter night and he kept it. My relationship with my parents is better than before, because it's honest now. There are boundaries. Words that can't be unsaid. But there's also a grandmother who FaceTimes every Sunday and a grandfather who sent Nora a stuffed duck for her second birthday with a card that said, "For the girl who never ruined anything." That card's on our fridge. Being dependable is not a personality. It's a trap when the people around you don't see your value. Saying no isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the most generous thing you can do because it gives people the chance to become better. I was the Honda Civic for 31 years. Reliable, unglamorous, taken for granted. But that Honda Civic finally drove somewhere for herself. And when she did, everyone realized how much they needed her. Nora's almost 3 now. She says grandma and pop clear as day. She has no idea any of this happened. And honestly, that's the best part. Thank you so much for sticking around through all of this. If this story hit close to home or made you think of your own family, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, it really does help. And if you would have done something differently, tell me that too. I'm curious. Either way, thank you for being here. Felt good to finally tell this one.